Welcome back to GLASP Deep Dive, short takes on the long reads worth your attention. I'm Hope.
And I'm Adam. Today, 3 little text files everyone keeps telling you to add to your site: robots.txt, ai.txt, and llms.txt. 2 of them actually do something. One of them does something completely different from what the hype says.
And this is maybe the most confidently wrong corner of SEO right now. The advice is usually add an llms.txt and you'll get cited in ChatGPT. That is just not how any of this works.
So let's untangle it. 3 files, similar sounding names, 3 totally different jobs. Mix them up and it genuinely costs you.
Give me the one-line version of each before we go deep.
Robots.txt controls whether a crawler can fetch your pages at all. It's been around since 1994, and it has real teeth. ai.txt is a licensing statement. It tells operators what you consent to for training, but it blocks nothing. And llms.txt is a curated index of your docs for AI coding agents. It is not a crawl rule and not a citation request.
And the cost of confusing them is concrete. Block the wrong bot, and you vanish from AI overviews. Trust the wrong file to stop training, and you end up in the dataset anyway. Add llms.txt because a blog promised rankings, and you've signed up for maintenance with 0 ranking payoff.
Right, so let's start with the one that actually does the work: robots.txt.
This is the only file of the 3 with broad, deliberate support. OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Meta, Common Crawl, Perplexity, Apple, they all publish user agent names and honor the directive. It's not legally binding, but getting caught ignoring it is a PR disaster. So the major operators comply.
And the part most people miss is that these bots are not all doing the same job. There are 3 flavors: training, user fetch, and search.
Walk me through the difference, because this is where the real control lives.
GPTBot trains the model. ChatGPT user is when a person pastes your link and asks ChatGPT to go read it. And OAI searchbot crawls, so you can show up in ChatGPT search results. 3 different OpenAI bots, 3 different purposes.
So the move publishers actually want is block GPTBot, but leave ChatGPT user and OAI searchbot alone. You opt out of being training data while staying readable and still citable in ChatGPT search.
Exactly, and Google split theirs the same way. Google Extended opts you out of Gemini training, and it does nothing to your regular Google search ranking. It's a separate user agent precisely so you can decline training without losing search traffic.
Which is the whole reason just block everything is bad advice for most sites.
Right. The common publisher pattern is block the trainers, allow the searchers. By Originality.ai's count, 88% of top global news outlets now block at least one major training crawler.
But for commerce or SaaS, the math flips. Most of them leave the trainers open on purpose because being in the training set helps the model remember your brand exists. Being forgotten is the bigger risk there.
Okay, file 2, ai.txt.
This one's a different beast. It was proposed by Spawning AI, the team behind Have I Been Trained? It's a structured way to declare your training preferences. Think consent, not access control. It doesn't stop a single fetch.
And honestly, adoption is thin. The audience is dataset curators, not the big crawler engineers. And the major model trainers mostly honor robots.txt, not ai.txt.
So why add it at all?
Because it complements robots.txt. Robots.txt says, do not crawl. ai.txt says, if you do crawl, here's what you're allowed to use it for. If you ever need to show you expressed non-consent for training, having one on file matters. It's a 5-minute change.
And it matters most for creator-heavy sites. Image hosts, art portfolios, music, stock photo platforms. The licensing question is much sharper when your work is the product.
Now the famous one, llms.txt. Most hype, most misunderstanding.
Jeremy Howard proposed it in September 2024, and the spec lives at llms.txt.org. Here's what it actually is. A simple markdown file at your root, that hands AI coding agents a clean map of your documentation. Cursor, Claude Code, Devin, that audience.
So it's a table of contents for robots, basically. Project name, a one-line description, then sections of links pointing at markdown versions of your docs. The agent reads it and instantly knows what your library does and where the real docs are, without parsing your whole HTML site and navigation.
And Mintlify and Anthropic extended it with LLM's full.txt, which inlines everything. Instead of links, it's your entire documentation concatenated into one big markdown file, so an agent can load all your docs into context in a single fetch.
Now here's the part SEO content keeps getting wrong. llms.txt is not a citation signal. It does not tell ChatGPT or Perplexity to quote you more. It's not a crawl directive. And Google flat out does not read it. Gary Illyes at Google said publicly they have no plans to use it.
So it has zero effect on your AI search ranking?
0 as a ranking input. None of the chat products read it that way. What it genuinely does is make life cleaner for developers who pull your docs into a coding agent. That's the real use case. It's a developer tool feature, not a marketing feature.
Which is why the sites that publish it are companies like Anthropic, Cloudflare, Vercel, Supabase, Mintlify. Their docs get loaded into Cursor all day. If your audience isn't building against your docs with an AI assistant, llms.txt gives you nothing.
Let me put the three side by side because one row settles it. Effect on AI search visibility. Robots.txt. Direct. It allows or blocks the indexing bots. ai.txt. None. llms.txt. None.
The one file that moves the needle is the 30-year-old one. That's the whole story in a sentence.
Now, the thing that quietly changed the math under everyone's feet. Cloudflare.
In July 2024, they shipped a one-click toggle to block AI bots. They called it Declaring Your A Independence. It was opt-in. A year later, July 1st, 2025, they flipped the default. New domains on Cloudflare now block AI crawlers out of the box.
And Cloudflare sits in front of roughly 20% of the public web. So in one move, a big chunk of the internet went from open by default to closed by default for AI training.
Their own numbers for the second half of 2025 are wild. 416 billion AI bot requests across the network. GPTBot traffic up 147% year over year. And Meta's crawler up 843%, the biggest jump of any of them.
So even as more sites block, the bots are fetching harder, and 2.5 million sites have opted in to Cloudflare's managed robots.txt, where Cloudflare keeps the bot list current for you.
That managed list detail is the real tell, isn't it? The list of bots is changing too fast for any one site to hand maintain.
It really is. There were maybe a dozen names worth tracking in 2023. It's closer to 40 now, and a new AI startup ships a new crawler every month. So sites are handing the list off to an infrastructure layer instead.
Okay, let's puncture the hype with actual adoption data, because SEO Twitter makes llms.txt feel universal.
It isn't. SE Ranking looked at over 300,000 domains in early 2026. llms.txt adoption sits around 10%, and it skews heavily technical. Documentation-heavy SaaS leads, marketing and content sites barely touch it.
And even where it exists, agent support is partial. Cursor and Claude Code will read it when you point them at a domain. Most other agents either ignore it or treat it as a fallback.
So the honest take? Real spec, real use case, very narrow. It's not a hidden ranking factor, and it's not a substitute for good docs.
So let's make this practical. If I run a site, what do I actually do? Give me the steps.
Step 1. Decide your posture. Content first, like a publisher or a blog. Block the training bots, allow the search bots. Product or SaaS. Probably stay in the training data because brand recall in model answers is worth more to you than the principal.
Step 2. Write a deliberate robots.txt. Don't paste in a random gist. Pick the user agents you care about and write the rules explicitly. Then, test it. You can literally run curl with a GPTBot user agent and confirm the right pages are blocked.
Step 3. Add ai.txt only if licensing matters to you. Step 4. Add llms.txt only if you have real docs and an audience of coding agents. Open source library or a developer platform, yes. Marketing site or content blog, skip it.
Step 5. If you're on Cloudflare, configure it once at the edge and let them maintain the block list. And step 6, watch your logs. Compliance is mostly good, not perfect. If a bot you blocked keeps hitting you, that's worth chasing down with the operator.
Which brings up a sharp edge case: spoofing. Anyone can set their user agent string to GPTBot and pretend to be OpenAI.
And that's exactly what the verified bot programs are for. Cloudflare and Google check the source IP against the operator's published ranges. So if you see GPTBot traffic coming from non-OpenAI addresses, that's a spoofer, and blocking it by IP is the right call.
There's also a more interesting direction buried in the edge cases: pay-per-crawl. Cloudflare announced it in mid-2025. Instead of block or allow, you charge AI crawlers per request.
So access stops being binary. It becomes a price. That's a big hint about where all of this is going.
It is, and the standards bodies are moving too. There's an IETF working group, AIPREF, drafting a proper machine-readable standard for AI training and usage preferences. Once that lands as an RFC, it probably absorbs the job ai.txt is doing today.
So the forecast is, the real standard that wins is not llms.txt. llms.txt keeps serving its developer niche. The licensing layer gets formalized by the IETF. And pay-per-crawl spreads to the other CDNs, Akamai, Fastly, and the rest.
And the meta pattern is the thing to hold on to. The open by default web is being quietly replaced by a permission-based web for AI traffic, run through infrastructure platforms instead of per-site config files.
It's a little ironic for us too, honestly. GLASP is a content site that AI reads. Every publisher is now making this exact call. How much of myself do I want in the corpus versus behind a gate?
Which is why the 3 jobs framing is the thing to remember. Robots.txt is the access gate. AI.txt is the licensing signal. llms.txt is the developer index. Configure each for what it actually does, and ignore the rest of the noise.
And if you take one action this week, it's the dull one that actually works. Open your robots.txt, decide trainer by trainer what you want, and stop waiting on llms.txt to do a job it was never built for.
The boring file is still the one with all the power.
Want to go deeper? Full articles on glass.co. Just search llms.txt versus robots.txt.
See you in the next deep dive.